800-797-0711. 800-797-0711. 800-797-0711. That's 800-797-0711.
How'd you like to eliminate your expensive cable bill forever or get new satellite internet where cable can't go? Well, now you can have affordable satellite internet service for a few dollars a day. All you need is a mini satellite installed, and you can have unlimited internet connections wirelessly in your home or office. And no cable boxes means unlimited connections and no clutter. You can surf the internet or stream any of your favorite television services with no cable. And the best part is, satellite internet service costs only a few dollars a day for your entire home. Yes, fast internet to surf or stream television for a few bucks a day. Call now for free details and learn how to drop your expensive cable bill.
800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. That's 800-696-2871.
On the next
Larry Connors, USA.
New York Governor Hochul pushing a big lie. Who's buying it? She says Republicans on the border crisis.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Non-smoker rate class. Exam required to qualify.
You're listening to the Dan Bongino Show. Dan, 24/7 at Bongino.com.
Hey, being in the radio business, sometimes you got to, it's tough. You don't realize you're talking to millions of people at the same time. My wife's texting me. Someone threw out we have pizza one time a year, one time a year. She had one leftover little piece from Blaze Pizza, whatever it was, and someone threw it out, and my wife is on the warpath. Paula's like, who threw out my pizza? I'm afraid to go downstairs. This may be the end. If I don't come back tomorrow, folks, you know what happened. No, I was just going to make the point. I was talking about when I went for this radiation treatment in a segment before. And for me, it was not that big of a deal compared to chemo. But I'm very sympathetic to others. And some people reached out and said, well, mine was really horrible. I had this condition. So I didn't mean in any way imply, and I hope you understand that anything or anyone going through cancer or radiation or chemo, not meaning to downplay any of it. I'm very sensitive to that stuff, and I bring up the feedback because your opinion matters to me. The show matters to me, and you matter to me. Some people, for radiation, mine wasn't. Mine was relatively easy for my condition, but others, it's pretty brutal. So the chemo for me was the worst part. But that's it. I just want to address that so nobody thinks I'm in any way trying to downplay it. I was just talking about my specific situation. Folks, increased pressure on Taiwan, North Korea, and the brink, Iranian aggression again. There's a lot of global instability as we plunge into election season. How have you sheltered your savings and investments from potential setbacks to the economy, major ones? It's not too late. It's not too late to diversify an old IRA or 401k into gold. And Birch Gold Group, BIRCH, can help you with just that. As opposed to a lot of other investments, gold thrives in times of uncertainty, and it's an important part of diversifying your savings. Part of my savings strategy, and here's how Birch Gold can help make it part of yours. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold, and it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. Just text Bongino to 989898 for a free information kit. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and thousands of happy customers, me included, I encourage you to arm yourself with the knowledge of diversification through precious metals. Text Bongino to 989898 and claim your free information kit and protect your savings with gold today. Performance may vary. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision. Message and data rates apply.
Dan Bongino.
All right, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Moses. Moses, how are you, buddy? Good to hear from you. What do you got for us today?
All right, Dan. I'm doing great, man. Always an honor. Thank you for taking my call, as always. And Dan, it's always crazy. I always get very frustrated, especially after the weekend, how I watch the Sunday shows and how the GOP, right? We always talk about the lack of messaging, right? Marco Rubio did a decent job this past weekend with Jake Tapper. He actually wrecked Jake Tapper on the actual immigration bill because all he did was read from the bill. Now, if I was a member of Congress, here's what I'd be doing, Dan. I'd take my communications team and I'd be hunting reporters down, and I would take the actual text from the bills, right? I would take the text from Robert Hur's report, and I'd blow them up giant size, and I'll be hunting down reporters and forcing them to read what's in the actual bill, what's in the report. Then I would say,
Moses, hold on a second. Stop for a second, because this is important what you just said. I don't know why more politicians don't do that. I'm really confused. What you just said is important. I mean it. I'm unsure. Again, campaigns are sound bites and snapshots. The greatest snapshot in the world for a campaign would be Donald Trump or someone else in a debate ripping out of his pocket a copy of a canceled check to Joe Biden for $200,000 or whatever the amount was. I agree with you. Rubio, good for Rubio if he did that. I saw the interview on social media, but I didn't watch the whole thing. It wasn't part of the show today. But that's what we do on our show. You know that. You're a P1 listener. You're like the P1 and P1s. We do it all the time. We read from the bill. The bill says that this mysterious 5,000 people who are going to be allowed to break the law and come into the country illegally, that number's not even real. It's in the bill. It says, well, that number doesn't count people from non-contiguous, i.e. everyone. So it doesn't even count. Well, just read it from the bill. It's right there. Where do you think I got the word non-contiguous from? Is it an SAT course? So, Moses, I agree with you. It's a great call. You have more political chops than most of these political focus group people. Props matter. Everyone should be, who's against this bill, should be walking around with that one paragraph. Oh, 5,000 people we're going to let in every day? How come the non-contiguous, not those people? Why don't they count? Just ask. It's right there. Don't miss the podcast.
Hello, my name is Chad Clayman with Clayman Group, where you can find us online at claymangroup.com, KLAMEN group.com. Do you have a house that you'd like to sell as is and not deal with the market? Maybe you have a tenant not paying the rent or a house in disrepair, and you want a simple solution for your sale? We've been in business for over 88 years, and we've helped thousands of people sell their house in as-is condition with no middleman involved. Reach out today at claymangroup.com. KLAMEN group.com and receive an offer today.
Are you tired of the corruption and special interest groups controlling our state and cities? Are you tired of yelling at your TV or your car radio because important issues like crime, homelessness, education, and taxes are being blocked by special interest groups? It is time for Missourians to declare our independence from special interest groups corrupting our government. Join the Freedom Principle Mo today, and you can be an integral part of creating the largest statewide member-led organization fighting for America and Missouri First policies. The Freedom Principle Mo is fighting to put the voters back in charge of our government. The Freedom Principle Mo has been a leading voice in Jefferson City, fighting for our police and making our community safer, exposing corruption at the local level and in Jefferson City. It's time to start making our elected officials start listening to us and finally start passing legislation that protects our freedom and protects Missouri's values. Visit our website at freedomprinciplemmo.org and join today and make 2024 the year we get something done.
Here's a great way to save money on your prescription medications. If you take Viagra or Cialis, we can give you a way to pay as little as $2 a pill. Compare that to prices as high as $60 per tablet. These pills work for men and women to improve their sexual performance. And now for the price of 2 or 3 pills, you can get nearly 100. There's no need to pay expensive prices for Viagra or Cialis. Call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. We offer 24/7 service.
HD3 Clay, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin back in the hospital and has transferred authority to his deputy. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
Austin was transported to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center on Sunday afternoon with symptoms pointing to an emergent bladder issue. The secretary, who transferred authorities to his deputy, Kathleen Hicks, is recovering from prostate cancer surgery in December. He caused a controversy by keeping his diagnosis, treatment, and earlier hospital stay a secret from the White House. Austin returned to work at the Pentagon 2 weeks ago. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Also at townhall.com, correspondent Julie Walker reports on the race to replace former Representative George Santos of New York.
The race to replace disgraced Republican former Representative George Santos is in the final stretch, with Republican Nassau County legislator Mazi Pilip and Democratic former U.S. Representative Tom Suozzi battling for votes in New York's 3rd Congressional District, covering parts of Long Island and a sliver of Queens. Both candidates launching a blitz of last-minute ads. Early voting in the special election began February 3rd. Polls closed Tuesday night. Julie Walker, New York.
Heavy snowfall will be spreading over parts of the Northeast starting late today into Tuesday. Some areas expected to get up to 2 inches of snow an hour. And in the southwestern U.S., a winter storm advisory has been issued for eastern New Mexico, which got its first notable snowfall of the season. Israeli forces rescued 2 hostages after storming a heavily guarded apartment in a densely packed town in the Gaza Strip and extracting them under fire. Israel describes Rafah as the last remaining Hamas stronghold. The Dow had 97 points, but the NASDAQ 55 points in the red. More at townhall.com.
The new FedNow system is paving the way for the digital dollar. It grants the government unprecedented access to your financial transactions. This isn't just an invasion of privacy, it's a direct assault on your liberty and hard-earned money. It's another reason why I recommend physical gold IRAs from the Birch Gold Group. I'm Lance Wallnow. I'm a news analyst and a podcaster with nearly 25 million downloads to people just like you who cherish their financial independence. A precious metals IRA can help you avoid the scrutiny of Big Brother while also preserving your retirement savings through almost anything, including economic crashes, political instability, and even hyperinflation. To find out more, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word FAITH to 989898. Birch Gold Group is the only gold company I trust. Get their free info kit and see how a gold IRA can help you. Text FAITH to 989898. Remember, there's no strings attached. Text FAITH to the number 989898 right.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Some light, wet snow falling well south of St. Louis. Shouldn't have any impact on the roads as they're just too warm. The high temperature today in the mid to upper 40s across the area under mainly cloudy skies. But here's some good news. Sunny tomorrow and cool, 52 degrees for the high for Valentine's Day on Wednesday. The high temperature is going to get up around 60 degrees under sunny skies. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Levi Hart with Thrive St. Louis.
I'm fairly certain that abortion wouldn't have happened. And that's the case in most scenarios, that when the dad steps into that role, it's just not going to happen. And not because of pressure or anything, but because it really is a man's issue. Like, that's why the enemy, Satan, wants to take it away from being a man's issue, because it actually is.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. This hour of Colombo and Katie brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com. Tony Colombo.
Libertarianism is all about individual liberty.
Katie Fitzpatrick.
Oh, good for you.
Colombo and Katie on News Talk STL.
Time to rise, has been engaged. Your better best to rearrange. I'm talking here to me alone. I listen to the finest work song. Your finest hour.
Hello and welcome to Monday afternoon, the day after the Super Bowl. Hope you're feeling okay. Hope you're all recovered from your Super Bowl parties. And we've got a great show for you today and a great week to kick off for you. First of all, you're watching on the cameras. I'm just going to put this on.
Oh, yeah.
No big deal.
Big deal.
No big deal. It's just a gold
Big
medal.
deal.
Just a gold
Hardware.
medal.
Some
Yeah,
hardware.
Chiefs aren't the only ones that won a championship yesterday. Maggie was gold medal on uneven bars.
Woohoo! Go, Maggie, go!
Bronze on vault. No big deal. Just another day at work. I'll wear the gold medal today.
Go, Maggie.
Celebrate. It's some interesting news regarding the Super Bowl. There's, of course, all kinds of reaction from the commercials and from the game and all of that. But there's also political stories coming out of it that both impact local politics and national politics. We'll get into those as we go through the story. But believe it or not, the Chiefs' Super Bowl victory could further delay the legislative session in Missouri, which is, that's all we need, is another distraction. Get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, I want to know.
Yeah, also, so Katie and I were talking before the show, and I predicted as I was watching yesterday that you and I would have different opinions on a lot of things.
Yes.
Involving the
Yes.
Super Bowl.
Uh-huh.
So I wasn't even going to really watch because I just don't care about the Chiefs or the 49ers. But we were, as I said, my daughter had a gymnastics meet in Kansas City yesterday afternoon. So we drove to Kansas City in the morning, had the meet, and drove home. And during the drive home was when the Super Bowl was on. And watching the Super Bowl is better than most things when you're driving home. So the Super Bowl was on our phone, in the little holder there on the dashboard. So they're watching it. My wife is watching it. My daughter's watching it. I'm listening and watching as I'm driving. And so I took in a lot more of the Super Bowl than I intended to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I have some thoughts. One of the things that stood out to me as I was taking little notes to talk about was Super Bowl commercials. And I even wrote down in my original notes, if you're watching on the cameras, I even wrote RFK commercial. I wrote that before I realized that the RFK commercial has actually ruffled some feathers. I just thought it was an interesting commercial because it was basically he took one of JFK's commercials from the 60s, one of his campaign ads from the 60s, and just superimposed his face on it a couple times. And instead of like vote Kennedy or vote Democrat, it said vote independent. But it was basically one of his uncles, one of JFK's presidential campaigns. Apparently that rubbed some folks the wrong way. RFK has had to apologize to family members over his Super Bowl ad, claiming he had no involvement in the ad itself. Did you see it? Are you aware of?
I only saw the tail end. I didn't get to see the rest of it.
Real
All I saw
old
was
school. I mean, it was
tail
literally a commercial from the 60s.
Hmm.
So it looked like a commercial from
Okay.
the 60s. Kennedy. Everybody loves to vote Kennedy.
That was the commercial?
I mean, it's very close
That's
to that.
incredible.
Yes, very close to that. Yes. Robert F. Kennedy apologized to members of his family for a surprise Super Bowl ad that heavily featured his connection to his uncle. American Values 2024 PAC ran the 30-second ad for $7 million. The clip is a throwback to an ad used by his uncle JFK in the 1960 presidential campaign. The ad, replacing JFK's face with RFK Jr.'s face, implores viewers to vote independent. RFK Jr.'s cousin, Bobby Shriver, first complained about the ad in a post last night, writing that his uncles and his mother would have never approved of RFK Jr.'s deadly health care views. Bobby Shriver put out this statement saying, quote, "My cousin's Super Bowl ad used our uncle's faces and my mother's. She would be appalled by his deadly healthcare views. Respect for science, vaccines, and healthcare equity were in her DNA. She strongly supported my healthcare work, which he opposes." So
There's some squabble happening amongst the Kennedys.
we can get into that claim if you want to, saying that we haven't learned a lot from the science and haven't followed the science, and the science hasn't and data hasn't proven that a lot of the things that we did during COVID were patently false and the wrong thing to do is a whole nother conversation. So far from an RFK Jr. supporter, but I take a lot of issue with what Bobby Shriver just claims about medical information. But setting that aside, he's upset about about him using about RFK Jr. using his mom and leaning on JFK imagery to, break through with this political ad. RFK Jr. replied with this statement: "Bobby, I'm so sorry if that advertisement caused you pain. The ad was created and aired by the American Values Super PAC without my involvement or approvals from my campaign. Federal rules prohibit super PACs from consulting with me or my staff. I send you and your family my sincerest apologies. God bless you." And then he followed that up with a more generic statement to the public that was directed, obviously, specifically to his cousin.
Mm-hmm.
He followed that up with a more generic statement saying that offering a general apology to any of his family members who were hurt by the ad, stating once again that, quote, FEC rules prohibit super PACs from consulting with me or my staff, which I find pretty interesting, that somebody can run an ad to the entire world
without
$7 million for 30 seconds, and the person that the ad is for has no
clue,
input, consultation, or now I'm sure there's a lot of weeds there. I'm sure there's a lot of learning about exactly what that rule says and all of that. I'm sure it's not as cut and dry as that. But when I first saw him say that he had nothing to do with it, I was like, oh, of course you had something to do with it. It's your face on a Super Bowl commercial.
It cost a lot of money.
But then he says that it's against the rules, which I did not realize. And if that is indeed the rules, then is that right?
So
should a super PAC be able to
doesn't
run a
seem
commercial
so.
like that without so they can say whatever they want? I mean, even if they're endorsing you,
but still,
they can say whatever you want without
seem
consulting
right.
you.
No, that does
because what
not
if they
seem
say
right.
something wrong and then they accidentally make you look even worse?
Well, and I think this is a really, again, I side with you on like all of the technicalities and things involving COVID and the vaccine. I'll put that all aside because I don't agree with what he said.
You could go down two roads when you're talking about this,
Right.
this issue.
But I do agree with him in the fact that if someone used my mom or someone that I loved in a video that I didn't approve of and that no one warned me about, and they were using it in a political agenda way. I mean, I definitely understand where he's coming from saying you're using somebody that I love and I wasn't aware of this. But I also have to say, I agree on that point, but I think it's very big of Kennedy to come out on Twitter even. Hopefully it was more than just a tweet. Hopefully they actually had an interaction, whether it be phone call, whatever. But I do love that he came out and said, I'm sorry. I had nothing to do with this. This was not in my hands. It was out of my control. And I am truly sorry for this, because I also think that that's missing in politics too. The whole thing to me is very strange though, because
is there a problem with that rule?
I think it's a huge problem. I think there's a huge problem with that. I don't think that you should be using anybody's. It kind of goes back to what you fight for with college students and having their likeness being used and them not gaining profit from it whenever they're, doing something for their college and, they're not getting paid. I think the same thing about this. If you're using someone's image, if you're using someone's name, they should be aware. They should be well aware. They should be informed what you're doing, and they should have the final say, yes or no, on this package that's being released.
Devil's advocate to that is that, of course, if the candidates are controlled by or influenced by or have any influence on the super PACs, then, that could create a ethics problem with raising money. The reason that there are super PACs is so that the candidates themselves aren't personally getting all of that money, and it's supposed to take out some of those ethical corruption issues. I think this does, though, if nothing else, it kind of shows a spotlight on just how weird, complicated, potentially corrupt, at least it can be potentially corrupt, when there are campaigns that raise tens of millions of dollars and where all that money goes and how it's
Totally.
spent, I think people, for a good reason, don't understand how all of that works and why it goes to super PACs and why you can't donate so much to a certain candidate, and do they get to keep that money, and how much do they get to keep, and what can they do with it? Like, it just really shows a spotlight that it's messy.
Was there
The way that is done is the way that we handle campaign fundraising and tens of millions and all of that is messy at best.
Was there any other political commercials? I didn't see any other political commercials other than this one, and I only saw the tail end. And then I saw Biden doing his small little video at the very beginning talking about shrinkflation.
And not doing an interview.
Not doing an interview. This is what he did instead. It was like a 45-second, 50-second video instead of the interview.
Which is traditionally an opportunity for the President of the United States to speak to the American people on a huge platform and do a fairly long interview, 15, 20 minutes traditionally. And for him to pass on that, I mean, especially coming off of last week's report.
Yeah. It's
if there was ever a time that you needed to step up and show the American voters that you're with it, that you're sharp, this was it. And this just makes it look even worse. You won't go, that he passed on this.
He on this video, I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but this video that was produced and that was totally controlled because Biden needed to have it controlled, he looked, again, old. He was clearly reading off the teleprompter. His eyes were scanning the teleprompter that was in front of him, reading off of it. He sounded old. And it was all about boosting up Bidenomics, all about how he's done like this quick turnaround with the economy, and about how stores are trying to manipulate you into buying smaller products, but it's costing more. It was just it was unbelievably political. And those are the two only political things commercial-wise that I saw. Maybe I missed some, but that's it.
I didn't watch. I missed a lot of the Super Bowl. I mean, and also driving. I wasn't watching the commercials as closely as I think most people were. And we missed a big chunk of the first half also because we were still in the meat. So I didn't see any. I didn't actually see the Biden interview live. I've watched it since. And also, I took away from that, here is the Super Bowl, which is the highlight, the biggest highlight of the year of consumerism, capitalism. This is every major brand, every major company in the country, if not the world, is on display with these elaborate, expensive, highly produced commercials. So this is everybody. Bud Light, McDonald's. I mean, every major Coca-Cola, every major company that you can think of, every corporate entity, like corporatism is never more on display than during the Super Bowl. And the president comes on in the middle of one of those breaks where you're seeing all of these
commercials,
these corporate commercials to say, you know what's wrong with this country? Big companies.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm just saying the irony, the timing of that, for him to come out in the middle of that and make his message about, you know what's wrong with this country? You know who are the bad guys? Big companies.
Big companies.
When every big company in the country is on display in your face.
I didn't even think about that.
In that same.
I didn't even think about that, but that is really what
So
he
are
was
we not
saying.
supposed? We'll argue about the Super Bowl commercials later, folks. Later on in the show, we'll have a little fun at the end of the show. Katie and I have very different takes on some of on some of the things that happened during the Super Bowl yesterday, specifically the commercials and things like that. I'm not sticking up for the commercials. I think the commercials are dumb. I don't get it. I don't think they're funny. I don't think they're entertaining. I think they are cringy at best and just pointless at worst, I guess. But so I'm not sticking up for them. But for Biden to attack all the companies that are on display in that moment, so what are you supposed to, if you are watching the Super Bowl and you're somebody that watches the commercials and loves the commercials, are you supposed to like walk away from that going, oh, maybe I shouldn't be enjoying these, maybe I shouldn't be supporting these
maybe I shouldn't
companies
go
that are on the,
and
maybe
of
I shouldn't
course-
laugh at that $50 million Dunkin' Donuts commercial that has 15
Hey, now, hold
advertisers
on.
in it and
Hold on
or
now.
15 celebrities in it.
But what else was funny? It's not funny, but like
It is funny.
it is funny.
It's in a bad way,
In a sad
but it's
way.
funny. It's bad,
He-
sad way.
He went back to he's trying now to use ice cream. You know how everybody makes fun of Joe Biden as Mr. Ice Cream?
Likes ice cream.
He loves ice cream. And everybody has made it like a long-standing joke because of this obsession he has with ice cream. He's trying to use that, like he's trying to use Let's Go Brandon and all these other things to like be like, I'm Mr. Cool. Like you could say I'm Mr. Ice Cream, but I'll use it to my advantage.
Yeah.
And he used that in this too. He's like, everybody knows I like ice cream. Everyone knows that I'm an ice cream guy. It's like, dude, you're not.
He thinks
it's not
he's
working.
connecting. He thinks he's being relatable. He thinks he's connecting.
It's not working.
It's not working.
It's not. We know you love ice cream.
Yeah.
We're using it in a different way, a different
Just
tone.
the timing of that, the fact that he didn't do his interview.
Yes.
I've got some, we'll get to it later on as we go through the show today, but there are people calling out, I mean, like big name Democrats in the media and politicians that are saying exactly what we just said, calling out the president on the heels of last week. Like, how can speaking from that side, Democrats are saying, how can we support you? How can we tell the American people? How can we tell our voters that this report about you is not true and you are sharp and you are with it and you are mentally capable if you won't even go in front of them for 15 or 20 minutes during the Super Bowl like every other president?
Yeah. And
it just makes you, the timing of that.
So bad.
And I really believe, I mean, it's people that run presidential campaigns are smart people. They know, they have instincts that tell them what are the right things to do and wrong things to do. That's why he does the ice cream stuff, because they're trying to make him relatable. They're trying to make him connect to people. They know that, especially after that report last week,
He's
how
got to be front
bad
and center.
it looks. They know how bad it looks that he doesn't come out and do that interview. But if it's even to me, what is so telling is that apparently it's even worse. Like, they know it's bad that he's not going to do that interview, but it must be even worse for him to do the interview, which really tells you something.
Yeah.
They know they're going to take a hit for him not doing that interview, especially after that report last week, but they know that it's probably even worse if he does do it. That is telling.
What does it say about him even attempting to do a debate with Trump? If he can't sit down for 15 minutes and do an interview with a friendly before the
Super Bowl interview is a puff piece.
It's totally meant for that.
It's totally meant for that. It is a puff
How
piece.
is he going to get through
If he
the
can't
debate?
do a 20-minute interview, a 20-minute puff piece during the Super Bowl, how can he stand on a podium, in front of a podium for 2 hours
with the bulldog,
with no break, with no chance to recoup, and have to answer, even whether it's, I mean, you're right, with Trump there breathing down his neck, but just trying to give answers
off the cuff
about the border and the war and education and crime without being scripted, with having to do that on the fly.
That's
if
gonna
you
be hope
can't
and a
do a
prayer.
20-minute puff piece interview, whoa.
No hope this year.
Good, I hope we get to see it.
Me too.
Because
Me
it will
too.
be amazing. All right, great show today. As I mentioned, Rob Carter from The Rob Carter Show will join us in a little less than an hour, just after 3 o'clock. Virginia Cruda from The Daily Wire will join us here in about 20 minutes. And Chad Clayman from the Clayman Real Estate Group is here. We're going to have company live in studio. Chad will join us next on Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Green seagull turn a deeper blue.
You're listening to Colombo and Katie.
I could not foresee this thing happening to you.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
The Democrat Party is going to have to go back toward the center.
News, analysis, and opinion.
I've never called a talk show before, but this just irked me.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
If you are having any plumbing issues or you have an upcoming plumbing project that you need the best team to help you with, A+ Plumbing and Drain is that team to call. A+ Plumbing Drain is a local family-owned business that can take care of all your plumbing needs. So they can, of course, help you if you're having a current issue or if you just need something simple like a faucet replaced or you got a leaky toilet or something like that. But they also specialize in new construction and home renovation. So if you have a big project in mind and you need somebody that is on your side to help you make that a successful project, A+ Plumbing and Drain is the team to call. Jeremiah and his team at A+. You've heard Jeremiah. He was just in studio with us about a week ago. Just a great story, a local family-owned business that has grown over the last couple of years simply from word of mouth. Jeremiah has been our plumber, a Colombo family plumber for years before there even was an A+ Plumbing and Drain, and he has grown this company just from word of mouth, doing good work for friends and family, and that's spreading, and it has now grown into this company, and I can't think of a better type of local business that you would want to support, somebody that you know has got your best interest in mind. So again, whether you have a plumbing need or issue at your home or business or a project that you need help with, A+ Plumbing Drain is the team to call. Call A+ at 636-288-7126 or contact them and learn more through Facebook. A+ Plumbing and Drain on Facebook.
Southern Armory, your hometown gun store. Come and be more than just a customer. Southern Armory, we carry the best guns, holsters, knives, magazines, ammunition, and even food storage. Special orders are welcome. Southern Armory, 1 mile east of 270 and 44, 9901 Watson Road, and southernarmory.com. That's southernarmory.com.
Whether you're purchasing your first firearm or adding to your collection at Southern Armory, you're more than a customer, you're part of the family. Follow Southern Armory on Facebook or at southernarmory.com.
Does your life insurance plan include living benefits, hearing, diabetic supplies, teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones? Larry Connors here. I suggest you call Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial. Call 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Number one for live and local
conservative talk. They always have great conversations.
news, analysis, and opinion.
As you know, the special counsel releases findings today about their look into my handling of classified documents.
Unmitigated disaster.
I did not break the law.
The Supreme Court is taking into consideration the political ramifications.
Why should a single state make this determination?
A handful of states are going to decide the presidential election.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
What new chaos and crises did Joe Biden start over the weekend? We'll discuss at 4:25 with former U.S. Senator Jim Talent. Red State Headlines at 5:25 with Susie Moore.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
In my eyes, indisposed, in disguises no one knows. Hides the face, lies the snake in
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 News Talk STL. As I said, just after 3 o'clock, Rob Carter from The Rob Carter Show going to join us. Virginia Kruger from the Daily Wire will be with us in about 15 minutes. And right now, if you're watching on the cameras, you see that we have company over. I love it when company visits, Katie. Chad Clayman from the Clayman Real Estate Group is here. Great to see you. How are you?
Good. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming in the day after the Super Bowl. Sometimes it's tough to get people.
Especially with that Chiefs win.
Yeah, absolutely. The overtime, too. It's
incredible.
after I turned 35, it's like my bedtime, after 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Yeah. David and I were like, wait, it's 10. We're trying to peel ourselves off of the couch. I'm like, why is this so long? But I had to see them get the trophy. I had to see a little kiss with Taylor Swift. I know how you feel about it, but I had to see it all.
I didn't have to see any of that, but I did think the game was. The game was good, and I think a lot of people learned about overtime rules that they were not aware of beforehand.
That was actually one of.
You having trouble hearing? Because we can hear you fine.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
You
can you hear
good.
us?
Oh yeah, that's much better.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
that was one of the most looked at Google searches. Was
overtime rules?
Yeah, overtime rules and something else too.
Well, it's changed so many times recently. I think that people just couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
But, so it was an interesting
I
night.
think there was a prop bet too. I'm curious on what the over/under was on how many times they showed Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like 18 the last time I looked. Yeah, and I don't know if it hit, it didn't hit, but it had to be close.
I would guess that I was actually surprised at how few times they went to her. So I bet the under, was So Chad, thanks again for being here this afternoon. Katie and I have talked a lot on this show about markets, about the housing market, some of the changes there, and some of the various services that people can take advantage of that maybe they weren't aware of. And I know that your company services a very specific need for people. So I have some questions, but just tell us about, fill people in on exactly, what you guys specialize there at the.
What we do is, in a nutshell, is we simplify the home sale for somebody that wants an easier solution than the traditional manner of listing it and putting it on the market and going through the entire process of marketing it and having people through their house. So what our process looks like is somebody would call us direct, or they could even have their agent call us. We'd come out to the property. We would do a one-time walkthrough, and then we're going to buy the house exactly the way it sits on their timeline with no contingencies. So if somebody called and they said, Chad, hey, I have a house, I want to sell it, and I don't want 10 people coming through during the marketing process. I don't want to have to deal with the inspections that a buyer might have, and I don't want to have to deal with multiple agents and multiple people and multiple parties involved. Please come out and just take a look at it, and I'd appreciate if you give me an offer.
Mm-hmm.
We'd come out, we'd evaluate on what we thought we could pay for the property. Then we would make an all-cash as-is offer, and we can close on their timeline and around their situation. So sometimes what happens is people say, hey, I'm looking for a place for my mom to move. I'm not exactly sure she wants to move, but I know, or when she's going to move, but I know I want to get this house sold. So we can cross that off the list and remove that piece of stress. What we can do is we can come in and buy it and provide a flexible closing date and say, hey, we can close on or before 6 months. And if you figure out where you're going to move prior to then we can close whenever you want to. And if you still need more time in the 6 months, it can be flexible so we can move it around based on your situation.
Yeah. You touched on something there that I think is so important because as you're talking, I'm thinking about how many times have you provided relief to a family? Like if there's an unfortunate situation and an older family's member, a house needs to be sold, but there's 4 or 5 different people and like kids or relatives involved, and they all have a different point of view or argument about, and you can come in and just take care of that. Or if somebody's out of town and they have to, somebody that doesn't live in the market that the house is in because of family that doesn't have time to, come into the, fly to home and take care of that, that you can just take that pressure off of those people, I think.
Yeah, and it is a pressure relief. What we've realized is what people value sometimes is more than money. I'm not the right buyer if someone wants to absolutely maximize their home sale. I'm the right buyer on somebody that wants to get a fair offer for their house with the least amount of headaches and hassles possible to simplify their home sale. So in the situation you're referring to, a family that maybe one person lives in town and 3 people live out of state, or 1 and 1, or whatever the situation is, and it doesn't make sense for the person that lives in town to go through the entire process of cleaning and painting and changing carpets, changing out appliances, and modernizing a house that hasn't been updated since 1965.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be splitting the proceeds with all their siblings anyway, where they say, okay, what would you offer just the way it sits? We're going to be splitting it 4 ways, and you can really simplify that sale. And what I tell people, again, is like, I'm not, like, you don't call me if you want to make the most money possible, because my job is to buy property for hopefully a little bit less than what it's worth, put some money into it, and then sell it for the most money possible, and that's how I make a living. But we have to start by buying it for a fair price, but a little bit less than what it's worth. However, what you're getting instead of that is time,
yes,
less stress, less headache, and
simplicity.
Simplicity, and especially with those people that are splitting the proceeds multiple ways within heirs, it sometimes makes even more sense, because maybe they would have made an extra $15,000, but if they have 3 siblings, the one sibling that's paying to do all the work, it's probably not worth their time and their hassle to go through that entire process.
Such a great point.
Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. Such a great point, because, as you said, you may make $15,000 more, but it also could take 5 more months.
Yeah.
And what's more important? The simplicity and a clean break and moving on. Like, time is money. Not to be cringy or cliche about it, but time is money also. So.
Yeah, and like the reality is, sometimes what we do is we break it down to people, and we say, look, how long do you think it'll take you to get it ready? And they say 4 months, and then what are they going to put in the house? And they say this, and then how much are you going to pay the real estate commission? And once you wipe all that stuff away, the difference between selling it to me now, not paying the taxes and the insurance while they own the house, not having a house sit vacant for 3 months, removing that stress, it ends up being a number that's usually a lot more palatable than people would think when they're calling somebody that says, oh, I buy houses as is. Well, what does it actually look like from a number standpoint? Once we break it down to people, sometimes they feel better about it too.
Chad, let me ask you about this, because there's a lot of people that have had issues with homes. Let's say like a water break or something like that, damaged floors, damaged roof, things of that nature, that they're also like, we're trying to sell this house. I don't know what to do with it. This is a handful. Is that kind of properties that you guys deal with as well?
Absolutely. So we buy houses anywhere from Festus to Wentzville, all throughout the county and the city, and parts of the Lake of the Ozarks on the Missouri side. And we buy parts of Illinois, like the greater St. Louis area and the Illinois side. And then we buy in any condition. So going off the specific example you referred to, we bought a house earlier this year in Glendale. And the reason the seller called me is he said, I have foundation issues.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to disclose this to buyers. I don't want in 3 years to be dealing with a lawsuit on a potential buyer by not disclosing properly. I'm selling it as is so I can remove myself of any liability and let you deal with the stuff. So I went in, I assessed the foundation issues. In this particular situation, I knew there was issues, so I brought my foundation guy that I deal with consistently with the house with me. And by the time I left the house, I was able to make him an all-cash, contingent-free, full or non-disclosure, whatever you want to describe it, offer where he had no risk or no liability, after we sold the property.
Yeah, talking to Chad Clayman from the Clayman Real Estate Group, and I'd love to have you back on, because we only have a few minutes left, and there's so many other layers of this that I would like to talk to you about sometime. But I think another important thing is the timing of the market. And I wanted to ask you, like, I sold and bought a new house about a year and a half ago, so fairly recently. It was definitely different now than it is now, but it's still, and correct me if I'm wrong, very much a seller's market, just because of the supply and demand aspect of things. That if you do have a house to sell, you don't want the opportunity of the seller's market to pass you by. So not a good time to wait. Like, strike while the window is still open. Is that a fair?
Yeah, I think there's some reality to what you're saying as far as strike while the iron's hot. But when we buy property, like I never want anyone making decisions out of fear, because like ultimately, like, I'm not a fortune teller. I can't predict the future of the market. what I can say is that the inventory is still at an all-time low from a historical standpoint. We have less inventory today than we had pre-COVID in 2019. We're not at the acute low low number of houses available, but we are still at a point in the market where there's certainly more buyers than there are sellers, and we're paying higher price today than we did in 2021 and 2020. So we are still paying strong numbers. Where is the market going? I don't know. Construction prices are still very expensive, and ultimately there's still more demand than there is supply. So until there's something changes where construction price, comes down to where they can build affordable houses, it doesn't seem reasonable to expect that we're going to see like a price deceleration or a price decrease. We might see a deceleration, I guess that's the right word. If you think about it, if you're on the highway, you're going fast and you get off the highway and you're on the exit ramp, you're still going forward, just not the quite same speed. That's kind of the way I consider the market today. But again, construction prices are still super high, and so we're still paying big numbers for houses from a historical standpoint, and we're still been very aggressive with our offers. But if you're saying, do I need to do it now or do I need to do it in the next few months? I don't think anything's changing in the immediate future, and we'll still be here and ready to make an offer when and if you get to that point.
So if somebody's listening, Chad, and they fall perfectly into one of those scenarios that we were discussing a moment ago, or realize that whatever situation they're in, that you're the perfect solution for that, what are all the best ways that people can learn more about the Clayman Group and contact you guys?
Yeah, so if you can find us online at claymangroup.com, KLAMEN group.com, where you can learn more about us. You can see kind of about the history of our family business, or you can reach out to me direct. I'll give you my cell, 314-359-3139. I'm really trying to make a presence in the radio world a little bit, so I'm giving people my cell to prove that I'm serious. So again, 314.
That'll prove it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
314-359-3139, or find us online at claymangroup.com, KLAMEN group.com.
Chad Clayman, I hope we can get you back soon.
Thanks,
there's
Chad.
lots of, I think that, that not only the service that you provide, but, what's going on with the housing market is super interesting. And I know that we could probably talk for an hour and not get to all of it. So
Yeah. Big time. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, great to see you. All right, we are going to talk to Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire. There's some drama with Kamala Harris surrounding the southern border and that report that came out last week and her reaction to it. We'll talk about that stuff and more with Virginia next on Colombo and Katie.
You're listening to Colombo and Katie. Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
Black hole sun, won't you come?
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Live and local.
Welcome home. And whoosh, sitting in traffic, stuck in a jam, and being entertained by Vic and Thunder Stealing Ken.
This is News Talk STL.
How's your health care? Insured but afraid to use it because of high copays and deductibles? You wait weeks for a few minutes with your doctor? It's Dr. Randy Tobler, and I struggle with the same issues as both patient and doc. You want to know that you're the focus, not the billing codes or faceless denial experts at insurance skyscrapers, which is why I've decided there's a better way. At Body of Health Direct Primary Care, you'll receive timely and time-rich appointments in person or virtually, whichever fits your needs and schedule, along with hundreds of free medications, transparent and truly affordable labs, and most importantly, a trusting relationship. We'll dig deep for solutions to problems and fill you with holistic coaching to minimize the need for high-powered medicine or specialty care. Now, if you need that, I'll work with specialists to streamline that journey too. And if it's prenatal care, hormonal, or sexual health that's bugging you, I'm board certified in women's health. Want a Body of Health? Get to know us at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
This hour of Colombo and Katie brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo Katie on 101.9 News Talk STL. There's Taylor.
Look at Blake Lively. Oh my gosh, what a woman!
I also got a education in ice spice.
Oh yeah.
From my 13-year-old daughter last night.
That's getting below. That's
one of the people that were up in the.
It was Ice Spice. That's the generation below me. I'm like, ooh, now we're getting too far for me.
We learned about Super Bowl overtime rules. I learned about Ice Spice. Learned a lot of things yesterday during the Super Bowl. Let's learn some more with our friend Virginia Kruta from the Daily Wire, who has been battling the COVID. Virginia, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, and I hope you are starting to feel better, my friend. How are you?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I do feel better. I don't sound good, but we'll just roll with it. Right?
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here when you're fighting through this. I know that you have some you've got some articles up at the Daily Wire regarding the Super Bowl, specifically Travis Kelce and Andy Reid and some of their issues on the sideline yesterday that has been blown up in the media, but is kind of at least trying to be kind of held hush hush, I think, by Kelce and the Chiefs. Can you fill us in on that story?
Well, there was an interception, I believe, or there was a fumble, and Travis Kelce was apparently not part of the next play that Andy Reid called, and he was not happy about it. And so he approached him on the sidelines and basically body checked him.
Yeah, got a little physical.
And, Andy Reid's a big guy, but so is Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
And Andy Reid's also 65.
Right.
So it did not look great, and he kind of manhandled him a little bit and yelled in his face. And then, of course, it blew up on the internet because everybody's like, why is he abusing the coach? But
winning the game probably makes things a whole lot better for everybody. Is my guess that that hoisting that Lombardi Trophy probably took away a lot of the arguments there.
The tension.
Yeah, a lot of the tension.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey guys, I'm gonna probably have to cut it off.
Okay,
yeah,
Go ahead.
I agree completely, Virginia. Thanks for your attempt, but definitely please take care of yourself and feel better soon. Okay, we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, she did. She got COVID. She has COVID.
Yeah.
So
God bless her, because we said don't worry about it if you can, and she wanted to come on. She missed last week. She's been sick for a while.
Yeah, she's had COVID a few times.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate it.
do.
We certainly appreciate it, but
I get it.
this little radio show is not worth it.
No.
Take care of
Take
yourself.
the throat lozenge and hang out.
For sure. I hope Virginia starts to feel better. And she's working because she's got new articles up at thedailywire.com. So make sure that you check out Virginia's stuff on thedailywire.com. We also post her stories, many of them on our website, newstalkstl.com, so you can read her stuff. And we'll get her back on soon when she is feeling better. I mentioned the Kamala Harris situation. And that is one thing that we haven't had a chance to talk to Virginia about. I can't wait to get her thoughts on we didn't talk to her last week, so we never got a chance to get her thoughts on the Robert Hur story, the investigation in general. And now, as the reaction pours out from it, things not looking good. Kamala Harris has done an interview where she says that she's ready to serve as Democrats sound the alarm about Joe Biden's age and ability to lead in the wake of that interview. In a recent interview with the Wall Street Journal, Vice President Kamala Harris says that she is ready to serve as concern over President Biden's age and mental fitness continue to grow, notably among members of the Democratic Party itself. Vice President said, quote, "I am ready to serve. There's no question about that, and anyone who observes my work walks away fully aware of my capacity to lead." I've observed your work, Miss Vice President.
And the lack thereof.
Since Special Counsel Robert Hur's report last week, Democrats have been voicing greater concern surrounding Biden's age and whether that could hurt his chances at winning re-election next year. Former President Bill Clinton's lead strategist, James Carville, nobody No show talks about James Carville more than this one. He argued over the weekend during an interview that the White House has little confidence in Biden after he turned down the Super Bowl interview, something that we talked about a moment ago. James Carville, one of the many Democrats who have pointed out this is a bad sign, a bad look. If you can't do a puff piece layup interview during the Super Bowl, how are you expected to perform on the debate stage or on the campaign trail or in your everyday decision-making as president of the United States? James Carville said over the weekend, quote, "It's the biggest television audience, not even close, and you get a chance to do a 20, 25-minute interview on that day and you don't do it? That's kind of a sign that the staff or yourself doesn't have much confidence in you. There's no other way to read it." It's exactly what I said earlier, that the staff knows, especially the campaign staff knows how bad this looks to turn down the interview. So, but if they think that that's better than doing the interview, knowing you're going to take flack for it, that's still better than doing the interview because you know that the interview is going to look bad. This is a no-win situation.
This is a no-win situation. And there's also a third element to what you talked about previously. And you named off, he has a very, not highly intelligent, but he does have a staff surrounding him that know how to work campaigns and have that kind of mindset. The other thing that has to be put into context whenever they reject something like this is that they probably could have controlled the room down to the question. They could have controlled probably the person that was going to even do this interview, and not control in like a malicious way.
No doubt.
But they could have staged and had both hands firmly around this product, from question to answer to person to every aspect of every way.
These are the questions that presidents get during the Super Bowl interview. They get questions like, what's at a Joe Biden White House Super Bowl party? What are the apps?
It's a day in the life of Joe Biden.
What a great spectacle of American sport and people coming together from all walks of life to watch one game. Isn't that wonderful, Mr. President?
Yeah.
I mean, these are the type of questions that they get. What's your favorite, chicken wings or nacho dip?
Right.
Which do you prefer as your favorite side item at your Super Bowl party? Like, those are literally the questions. Who do you think's going to win? It is as puff piece as possible.
Is there a possibility?
Puff piece is possible.
Puff piece, that's hard. Puff. Is there a possibility at all that Biden just said, I don't want to do this because I want to chill and watch the Super Bowl with my family?
No, there's no chance of that at all.
Like, I don't think so either.
No.
But
There's no
is there
chance of that
any chance that he and Jill are like, no, we don't want to do
He's
it?
the president of the United States. This is traditionally something the president does. This is about as easy
As it gets
for the president of the United States.
Another slam dunk,
And
too.
if he's not able to do that,
Could have been.
it's really concerning, especially on the heels of that report. Democratic strategist Paul Begala, who is a regular on CNN, said that last week's indictment of Biden's memory and his subsequent response was, quote, terrible for Democrats. Begala said over the weekend, quote, "Oh, yeah, look, I'm a Biden supporter, and I slept like a baby last night. By that, I mean I woke up every 2 hours crying and wet the bed. This is terrible for Democrats, and anybody with a functioning brain knows that."
Woke up multiple times. And
Those are Democrats saying that. Those are Democrat strategists saying that this is a bad look, that on the heels of that report, he can't come out and do the Super Bowl interview.
Not only is it just like the mental faculties and all of that not being there, but Joe Biden is also very, very much so losing the likability and relatable factor, which were really the only things going for him. And so you miss a piece like this. There's the two things that you really had going for you are now falling to the wayside.
Dan Bongino did a great job earlier today talking about that, like the likability and the Uncle Joe image that Biden tried to create and successfully did in many regards.
Yeah.
Is one, crumbling. Two, never was the truth. He's never been that sweet, friendly Uncle Joe. He's always been a plagiarist, a power-hungry influence peddler, liar to the voters. Yeah. It's just now getting exposed at more of a, more than it's ever been before. But it's always been there. I want to talk about that stuff. Continue this conversation with Rob Carter. Also, speaking of the vice president, there has been, again, some internal issues with her regarding the southern border. Biden officials calling her behind the scenes ineffective when it comes to the southern border. Also, Joe Biden once again reportedly raging at Benjamin Netanyahu behind the scenes, dropping bad words when it comes to the Israeli prime minister. I think that is a signal of things to come. We'll talk about all of these things and more with Rob Carter next on Colombo and Katie.
Hey, Josh Hawley here. Come join me in Kansas City for Missouri State Lincoln Days on February 16th and 17th. It's going to be an amazing time. Amazing speakers. My family and I are going to be there. We want you to be there too as we talk about the fight to save our country. Don't wait. Get your tickets right now at mogop.org. I'm Josh Hawley, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Learn more and get tickets at mogop.org.
Paid for by the Missouri Republican Party. Jennifer Finch, Treasurer.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
When you go shopping, you may not get the bargain you want, but at least you know and can compare prices. It should be that way with healthcare, but too often it's not. Need an operation on your knee? Want to know what it's going to cost? Good luck. For 3 years, hospitals have been required to provide patients with list prices and have negotiated charges for some 300 services. Only 36%, just over a third, are fully compliant. In Missouri, prices differ greatly depending on a patient's insurance. The cost of a pelvic CT scan, for example, can be 20 times more expensive in one hospital than another. Price transparency allows patients to compare providers, forces hospitals to compete on price, and helps insurers negotiate lower rates. State law should require all healthcare providers to publish prices in a user-friendly form. What we don't know is costing us. The price of healthcare shouldn't be a secret. Check out our 2024 blueprint, Moving Missouri Forward at ShowMeInstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. Donald Trump's latest comments about NATO are rattling world leaders. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
At a weekend campaign rally, Trump said Russia should be able to do whatever it wants to NATO members who don't meet their share of defense spending for the alliance. NATO's leader warned that Trump is putting the safety of U.S. troops and their allies at risk. Poland's president denounced Trump's comment, as did the White House. The former president said he would not protect a NATO ally if they were delinquent in payments and said he would encourage Russia to do as it wishes. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Also at townhall.com, correspondent Karen Chamas reports on a Russian drone barrage throughout Ukraine.
Russia has launched a barrage of 45 drones over Ukraine as Kiev changes more military leaders. In a 5.5-hour barrage, Russia launched drones that attacked agricultural facilities and coastal infrastructure throughout Ukraine. Ukraine's military said that a strike in the Mykolaiv region had injured one person, sparking a fire and damaging residential buildings. Its Air Force also said it had shot down 40 of the Iranian-made Shahed drones over 9 different regions. I'm Karen Chamas.
Israeli military spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari says 2 elderly hostages have been rescued.
Fernando Marman and Luis Har are now home in Israel. They have undergone medical examination and have been reunited with their families.
Israeli forces rescued the two after storming a heavily guarded apartment in a densely packed town in the Gaza Strip and extracting them under fire. The Dow was up 128 points, but the NASDAQ down 48 today. This is townhall.com.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-280-6565. That's 1-800-280-6565. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-280-6565. That's 1-800-280-6565.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Some light, wet snow falling well south of St. Louis shouldn't have any impact on the roads as they're just too warm. The high temperature today in the mid to upper 40s across the area under mainly cloudy skies. But here's some good news. Sunny tomorrow and cool, 52 degrees for the high for Valentine's Day on Wednesday. The high temperature is going to get up around 60 degrees under sunny skies. I'm KMOV First Alert meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Fox News commentary.
Joe Biden, a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. I'm sure our enemies are just loving this. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Hi, this is Scott Trout of Cordell & Cordell. There are a lot of great dads out there. Sometimes those dads get divorced. For more than 30 years, we've represented men in divorce, confronting the pitfalls that could devastate your finances or harm your family relationships. While every situation is different, our goal is to get the best outcome for you and your kids. Visit CordellCordell.com to take the first step.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood Parkway, Suite 310, Town & Country, Missouri, 63017. CordellCordell.com.
Special Counsel Hur's investigation into Joe Biden's mishandling of classified documents might not have turned out an indictment, but the findings are likely far worse. Special Counsel Hur concluded very plainly that President Joe Biden does not have the mental faculties to be held liable for his mishandling of classified material. I'm not sure how ignorance of the law renders you immune to it, but apparently that's how it goes if you're a Biden. But the fact that Joe Biden has not resigned from office and dropped out of the 2024 presidential race just goes to show how egotistical he truly is. But I maintain that Joe Biden will not be the nominee, whether he knows it or not. So pay very close attention to California Governor Gavin Newsom, because I'm sure he's already packing 4 years worth of hair gel in a suitcase ready for the White House, my friends. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show Tommy Lahren is Fearless at Outkick.com.
News, analysis, and opinion.
Let the American people see what's going on here.
News Talk STL.
Pay close attention.
St. Louis is number one.
Bottom line is this. St. Louis is number one.
For conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
That sounds good. When music was music, the 90s.
The 90s was a decade that was good for a lot of things.
Back in the old days, the 1990s.
Oh, God.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here with Katie Fitzpatrick in studio. Great stuff. That first hour, if you missed anything, make sure you are subscribed to the Colombo and Katie podcast, which we put out every day. Right after we get off the air every day, we put the show out as a podcast on basically every podcast platform. So you don't have to miss anything that ever happens here on the show. Just subscribe to the Colombo and Katie podcast on your favorite platform, and you'll get it all, including our great weekly Monday afternoon conversation with Rob Carter, host of The Rob Carter Show, which you can hear, of course, every weeknight at 8 p.m. Your show sheet still says Sundays at 6. You got to fix that.
Oh, gosh. Sorry, Rob. Sorry, Rob and
Here on
Tony.
News Talk STL, because we are the home of the most live and local content that you will find anywhere. Rob, great to talk with you, my friend. Thanks for being here day after Super Bowl. I hope you've fully recovered from whatever party you attended last night.
I didn't go anywhere.
Neither did I.
I was on my sofa, all alone, in the dark.
All
watching the
alone.
football game.
That is how I prefer it these
my
days.
wife was watching her show on her phone.
Yeah.
Watch the Super Bowl.
There you go. The Super Bowl has become, of course, and this is one of the reasons that I stopped watching sports in large degree. I grew up my entire life, well into my adulthood, well into my 30s, 40, as a sports fanatic. I played sports, watched sports, but as politics bled more and more into sports, and it no longer was, getting away from the real world, it used to be a relief, and then it wasn't anymore. And then there's also some silly, like, I got fed up with some of the changes to the games and things like that, but we won't get into any of that. But that was, of course, after the Super Bowl, a great football game in itself, but a lot of politics coming out of it. We were just discussing the reaction about Joe Biden turning down the Super Bowl interview, and how he is not only getting criticism from people on the right and his normal critics, but a lot of people on the left sounding the alarm that if he can't do a 20-minute puff piece Super Bowl interview, especially after the report that came out last week, how can he possibly stand on a debate stage or go on the campaign trail if it's this bad? What's your take on that?
I find it kind of almost amusing that it's now people are starting to figure out that he's not all there. I mean, he hasn't been all there since day one.
Yeah, no kidding.
You're just watching the slow grind into completely unable to form a sentence at all. So it's a strange world. I'll put it to you that way. That Super Bowl, I've been saying for a long time, it is one long piece of propaganda, primarily Pfizer and some other things.
Oh yeah.
And a Super Bowl breaks out in between, or a football game. It's just so much propaganda, like you said. It does get hard to get entertained by it anymore. It's over the top.
Did you find also ironic? I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, that he doesn't do the interview, but he does put out like a 45-second commercial attacking corporations and what is the biggest corporate spectacle of the year. I'm not saying it's bad or wrong that he did that. It's just the irony of him coming on television and saying, what's wrong with this country, and who is making your lives terrible. It's big companies and corporations right in the middle of the biggest corporate consumerism, capitalism stage of the year. I just found that to be highly ironic, and it definitely made me giggle.
He's one of those. Well, did you see he put out something about getting snacks and the shrinkflation?
Oh, Rob, that's what I wanted to.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
That statement where he attacked.
Yes.
He attacked companies in that same piece. Go ahead.
Shrinkflation. I love that.
That's
Bidenomics and shrinkflation. Somebody needs to do a better job at labeling and creating names. He needs to talk to whoever on Trump's team came up with Meatball Ron.
They need to get together.
Needs to help Joe Biden.
Rob, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, is that the other half of this, not commercial, but let's say discussion of that Joe Biden put together was about Bidenomics, the way it's working, how great it's been for the American economy, and how horrible shrinkflation's been because companies are so bad and they're taking away from the consumer. I'm wondering, Rob, since he didn't want to do this big Super Bowl interview, was it the right move for him to try to boost something like Bidenomics during something that's supposed to be fun and entertaining? Was this the right move for him?
I don't think it matters anymore. I think they've already decided that he's out. I think it's bigger than him. I think the Democrat Party, I think the DNC picks who they want. That's why you saw in 2016 when they took it away from Bernie and gave it to Hillary. They're picking who they want. This is a charade on the DNC side. I start to wonder if it's the same on the RNC side, but I think it's a charade on the DNC side. So I think they've decided that he's gone. Now the next question is, and that's why they're starting to roll out Kamala. She's ready for service, and everybody's now figuring out that Joe Biden has a fuzzy memory. He can't really think straight. They're just now starting to figure that out. So just the fact that people are just starting to now figure that out is a little bit scary. I mean, if you watch this guy for the last 3 years, he's all over the place.
Yeah,
He says things that are so bizarre and so off the chart. It's, you can make a 30-minute reel of the gaffes where he's just off on another planet where you don't even know what he's talking about. He's like that. Remember that beauty contestant from South Carolina, and they asked her something about maps, and she went on for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody knew.
Yeah.
He
I
does
do
that
know what
2 or
you're
3
talking
times a
about.
week. Yeah, it's just that they don't show it on network news, but he does it 2 or 3 times a week. You can find it out there, and they just suppress it and try to, prop him up. So I think he's going away. And here's what I kind of think is going to happen just on that topic, because I'll talk about this a little bit tonight on my show. I think what they want to do is I actually think Kamala is next in line. Everybody thinks there's going to be some outsider. I think Michelle Obama and Kamala are going to be in this. That's just a gut feeling that I have, because they're rolling both of these people out at the same time. And I have a sense that Michelle might be some form of an advisor or something to do where she really starts to push and campaign for Kamala. And, I think they just want a puppet there. So if the country's going to go in the wrong direction, they'd rather have a puppet up there than somebody deep in the establishment. She'll say whatever the script says, just like Joe Biden will say whatever the script says.
That's a great
Just
point.
like shrinkflation.
Yeah, it's a really good point. She does need a lot of rehabilitation with her image, however, with the American people, because if there's anybody less popular than Joe Biden, it's Kamala Harris. But
Right.
but
wait till Michelle Obama gets
Uh-huh.
involved.
I was just gonna say a little magic dust sprinkled
yeah.
on by the Obamas might do the trick. I wanted to, while we have time, I wanted to shift to a couple of other stories of the day. Another report. Katie and I have talked about this a couple of times over the last few weeks. Another report out today by NBC News about Joe Biden behind the scenes raging against Benjamin Netanyahu and calling him names and taking issue with the war in Israel, while still publicly, barely publicly holding on to his support of Israel. And I think this could be another. We talk about how telling it is that he doesn't do that interview. I think this could also be very telling. This NBC News report today said that Biden is complaining that Netanyahu is, quote, giving him hell despite his attempts to push for a ceasefire in the war in the Middle East. An NBC News source said about the war, quote, Biden feels like enough is enough and it needs to stop. Behind the scenes, Biden regularly refers to Netanyahu as this guy and has on multiple occasions called him a pain in my ass and an a-hole. The NBC report comes one day after Netanyahu defended Joe Biden publicly in an interview yesterday. Netanyahu was asked about Biden's mental condition coming off of the special investigators report, specifically when it comes to conversations about the war. And Netanyahu said about Joe Biden, quote, I found him very clear and very focused. We managed to agree on the war aims and many things. Sometimes we had disagreements, but they were not born of a lack of understanding on his part or my part. So Benjamin Netanyahu defending Joe, at least publicly, while apparently Joe Biden is bashing Netanyahu behind the scenes. And Rob, my opinion is this is setting the stage, because there's lots of reports that say that the pressure from the progressive left to not support Israel is starting to get to Biden, especially in an election year. What do you make of this story? And do you think that maybe Joe Biden is sort of laying the groundwork to change his tune about Israel in the future?
It's a very complicated situation. So my take on it is that Joe Biden is, I say this all the time, just my personal opinion is Joe Biden is completely irrelevant. He is nothing more than a figurehead. If you put a sock puppet on your hand, that's all he is. So the question always with me is, who is the one running him? What are they trying to get accomplished? And it appears, if you just watch how they roll out the propaganda on all the different networks and really stay in tune with the media apparatus, I think it's just a way to make him look like he's lucid and has an opinion. I don't think that Joe Biden is saying anything about anything. I think he probably goes to bed really early. I think he is being fed food all day long, and they prop him up just enough to give like a little bit of information for maybe a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes when he's probably hopped up on some form of a drug so he can get through 3 minutes. And then they hide him again. And they hide him and they hide him. They put out statements on Twitter, which,
Yeah,
he's not putting out his Twitter statements, quite obviously. So somebody else is putting those out there. So I think he is just, he's almost like an illusion of a president. He's really has nothing to do with anything. This is my opinion, just in watching him.
Yeah.
And I think what they do is they have handlers for him, the bureaucracy, whatever that is. And I have opinions on that too. But I think that is what writes the script for him. He reads it. The DNC writes the script and they read the script. And whoever's really running the DNC would be a good question.
Well,
Who's
so
really behind
that's
it?
exactly what I was going to ask you. You know, a lot of people say it's Barack Obama. Who, in your opinion, is it? Is it Obama? Is it a group? Is it a committee of secret Democrats that meet in a dark room and print out the orders? Who is the one pulling the strings ultimately, you think?
I think it's big money. So whatever the corporate BlackRock in general. So it's the people that control the money flow of the world, the Federal Reserve, the big money of the world. It's been around for centuries. I think they are the ones that I think the script really comes from whatever suits them best. They're moving chess pieces politically to get what they want, and then I think the intelligence agencies. These last couple of conversations where Tucker Carlson was on with Vladimir Putin, those are very interesting conversations that they're having because the CIA is mentioned over and over again, and then you just look at I'm not conspiratorial. I'm curious. Why would we not release the information on the Kennedy assassinations when it was obligated by law? Trump didn't release that information. Biden hasn't released that information. And here we go with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. being the fly in the ointment with both parties starting to run as an independent. So there's a lot to digest there. There's a lot of moving parts going on in American politics. None can be really figured out. You just have to use your best guess as to what's really happening, in my
Rob,
opinion.
I really want to talk to you about the Tucker Carlson interview with Vladimir Putin because there's been so much pushback for Tucker going to Russia and having this discussion, especially with what's going on in Ukraine. What were your thoughts and your opinions? Should he have gone? Should he have talked to Vladimir? Are we getting another side of the story? I mean, what were your opinions on that?
Yes. I mean, for me, I think everybody should be open and I think they should be talking. I think that's what makes the world interesting is when you combat or have a conversation with whoever your enemy is, whether it be Republican or Democrat, conservatives, liberals, whether you're a foreign leader from China or the United States. I think the ability for the public to watch conversation, you learn from that and you just make decisions on where life is heading and how you want to manage your way through life. When I watched that, and he made a mention of Tucker Carlson. He said, you tried for the CIA and thank God you didn't go into the CIA. I had just talked about that the night before. Tucker Carlson's father was in Voice of America, which was in the intelligence business. If you follow the intelligence business, they're family oriented. They just pass it down from family to family because you want to keep it relatively tight. You're talking about the world's secrets. So when he's made that commentary and then started talking about how Nord Stream 2 was attacked by the CIA, how propaganda, you couldn't win a propaganda war with America because American propaganda is everywhere. These are things that I noticed as I traveled the world. I didn't realize how strong American propaganda was, but it's everywhere. It's all the way over in China. I mean, when you're in China, it's like you're in America now.
Wow.
It's got Starbucks and Hilton hotels and McDonald's everywhere. And CNN is on your television screens. It was on at the airport. It was on the airport in Hong Kong. So there's global propaganda and I don't know whether Putin's a good guy or a bad guy. I just don't know. I just know that my information sources are always skewing things toward more war, more money for Ukraine, division at home. It doesn't feel like we have a trying to make life better for Americans. And if they're not trying to make life better for Americans, I think somebody should ask why. What are you doing?
That's what I was.
The borders are wide open and inflation's high and nobody knows who the president is. Maybe we should pay attention.
Yeah, right. And that was my point. I said this when we were discussing this last week. Interviewing somebody, especially a controversial world leader at the center of a war right now, interviewing somebody is not an endorsement of a person.
Correct.
It's literally the press's job to do those investigations, ask those questions to important people or the people at the center of any story or controversy that affects people. There were people saying that Tucker Carlson shouldn't be let back in the United States or he should be banned completely because he's talking to Vladimir Putin. Why don't you want to talk to Vladimir Putin? I want somebody to ask tough questions and to ask, and that doesn't mean that you take Vladimir Putin or anybody else at their word and you believe everything. Now, as I mentioned last week, if Tucker Carlson goes over there and all he asks Vladimir Putin is, "Hey, Vlad, why are you so great and perfect?" then yeah, there's a lot there's a lot to complain about. But when somebody's interviewing somebody at that level, especially who's at the centerpiece of a war that's affecting the entire country, that's what journalism is supposed to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I mean, that's exactly where I'm at. We're on the exact same page. I look at it as though I think the reason that certain media outlets and certain media personalities don't like the fact that Tucker Carlson is going over there is because you start to learn more about what's really going on in this country. We as Americans are so, we love the idea of freedom and liberty, and we love our system, and we honor those who fought for it throughout the centuries. But our country has caused a lot of problems recently. I mean, all you got to do is look around at what happened in the Middle East. I mean, it's really, we're stirring the problem, and then we're funding the arms to fix it. That's just reality, and that's what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is saying right now on the campaign trail. I mean, it's what he's talking about, the same things I've been talking about for 4 years. It's big money. It's the intelligence agencies, and they're using propaganda to sell it to Americans so that we can't figure out. We're constantly fighting while they're constantly doing whatever they want. They can send money over to Ukraine. We don't know anything about Ukraine. I have friends that live in Ukraine, and I get a little different story from them.
Yeah.
And so we send money over to Ukraine, and and then Mitch McConnell comes out and says, "Well, that money's really going back to us because it's going to our military contractors."
Yeah, I have friends that are
If
Russian.
you're starting wars so that you can fund your military contractors. I don't
Messed
know
up.
that I want to be on that side all the time. I want that exposed.
Yeah, I have friends that are Russian that came over here, as foreign exchange students, a decade ago or so, that I've had interesting conversations that I have relayed on the air in the past. That a different perspective for sure, and that's why the more conversations, the better, not silencing or censoring conversations. Rob Carter will be back at 8 o'clock tonight. One last question before we let you go. Switching back locally, I just found this. I found this headline in this story to be funny in an ironic, maybe sad kind of way. The Chiefs' victory last night will slow down an already slow Missouri legislative session. The House Majority Leader John Patterson announced before the game that a Chiefs win will result in no action on the floor Wednesday and Thursday of this week, giving lawmakers a chance to participate in the team's victory parade and rally in Kansas City. So an already slow, drama-filled, unproductive legislative session. Thanks a lot, Chiefs. You even slowed it down more with a victory. I just find this to be just funny.
It's comical. It really is. I mean, we're hoping we have a serious government in Missouri, but I don't know. You tell me. Tell me what you think. I mean, it's just they just can't get things done that the Missouri voters want. They just can't do it.
Yeah,
it's not possible.
No
I don't know.
kidding.
I don't know. It's frustrating. I know that.
Well, appreciate your thoughts and insight.
But I will be at the big parade.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You could be our intrepid reporter, and if you don't mind, let us know how that experience is at that parade. That is Rob Carter. Again, you can hear him every weeknight, 8 to 10, live here on News Talk STL. Rob, really appreciate your time as always, and we'll be listening tonight. Have a great rest of your day.
You got it, guys. Thanks. Great show.
Yeah, back at you. Great stuff there from Rob Carter. All right. Katie and I are going to argue about Super Bowl commercials.
I'm ready.
And maybe Super Bowl halftime shows as well.
Oh, boy.
I
Now
knew
we're getting sensitive.
I knew you and I would have opposing opinions. As I was watching some of this yesterday, I was like, I hate this, and I bet Katie loves this. So
You weren't wrong.
We'll see what side you're on, and we'll talk about it next on Colombo and Katie.
It takes this long to get back, so get back. 'Cause I hit a
You're listening to Colombo and Katie. Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. Live and local.
Well, here's what's on my mind. I think I got the solution to immigration.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
If you are looking to purchase a new vehicle, new or used vehicle, Weber Chevrolet is the team that can help you. Weber Chevrolet, in business in the St. Louis area for over 120 years, which continues to just be, I think, an amazing fact about that company that shows the dedication to their customers and the trust and relationship they have built up with so many St. Louis area families over the generation. Of course, Weber Chevrolet will give you the best price on a new or used vehicle. They'll offer you the most on your trade-in. And you'll hear a lot of people make those claims, but I believe that Weber Chevrolet backs them up more than anyone. But one thing that really stands apart that I don't think anybody else can claim is the service departments and the dedication to your vehicle for the entire time that you own it. It's not sell you a car or truck and get you out the door. They want to take care of you in that vehicle for the entire time that you have it. The service departments at all 3 Weber locations are absolutely second to none. And to me, that is the kind of thing that makes them stand out above the rest. So if you are looking for a new vehicle, find out what's happening at all 3 Weber dealerships. You have Creve Coeur in Missouri and Granite City and Columbia in Illinois. And you can learn about what's happening at all 3 of those locations by going to WeberChevrolet.com.
Sometimes you want to do something extra special for someone. Vincent's Jewelers could help you. Maybe you want to do something for yourself. Mark a date, something you accomplished. It doesn't have to be anything really expensive, but it has to mean something now and for the future. Vincent's, locally owned, just ask for the chance to work with you, as they have with me, on Olive, just east of 270. Every day, new specials at vincentsjewelers.com or Vincent's Facebook.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
Last week, Joe Biden got good news and bad news. The good news, the special counsel investigating how he handled classified documents after leaving as senator and vice president. The counsel ruled, we will not file charges. Good news. But in his report, the counsel said Biden did violate the law, but because of his age, mental awareness, he probably wouldn't be convicted. Bad, 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 Joe, bad. Biden and the White House went on attack, claiming that characterization was inappropriate, inaccurate, just wrong. Well, what's the answer to Biden saying the very next day there is only one existential threat to our country, our world? And yet 2 days before, he said there is one existential threat. It's Donald Trump. That was Feb 7. 2 days later, last Friday, Feb 9, Biden said there is only one existential threat we face in this world, more conventional threat than nuclear war. That would be the environment. Oh, I see, pushing climate change again. So, Joe, which is it? Or should we just do as kids did during the Cold War? To avoid all the threats, we simply crawl under our desk.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Make plans now to be at Lit Cigar Lounge this month. Lit is hosting numerous events. That includes live music. And there's an easy way to check on what is happening and when. You simply go to Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. By the way, to go to Lit, you don't have to be a member. Everyone is welcome. Just another reason that Lit won Best Cigar Lounge 2 years in a row. Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. Lit Cigar Lounge on Facebook.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Can government function without taxing your personal property? State Senator Bill Eigel says they can and they should. He's joining us on Tuesday's program to explain.
Mornings starting at 5:30
on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie. Didn't realize that this was going to happen. The president is speaking live right now at the White House about a possible hostage negotiation that is currently happening. So let's dip into this live at the White House and see what the president has to say.
Many families have lost not just one, but many relatives and cannot mourn for them, even bury them, because they're not safe to do so. It's heartbreaking. Every innocent life in Gaza is a tragedy, just as every innocent life lost in Israel is a tragedy as well. We pray for those lives taken, both Israeli and Palestinian, and for the grieving families left behind. Not only do we pray for peace, we're actively working for peace, security, and dignity for both the Palestinian people and the Israeli people. And I'm working on this day and night with the king and others in the region. to find the means to bring all these hostages home, to ease the humanitarian crisis, and to end the terror threat, and to bring peace to Gaza and Israel, enduring peace with a two-state solution for two peoples. As the King and I discussed today, the United States is working on a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, which would bring an immediate and sustained period of calm to Gaza for at least 6 weeks, which we could then take the time to build something more enduring. Over the past month, I've had calls with Prime Minister Netanyahu, as well as the leaders of Egypt and Qatar, to push this forward. The key element of the deals are on the table. There are gaps that remain, but I've encouraged Israeli leaders to keep working to achieve the deal. The United States will do everything possible to make it happen. The King and I also discussed the situation in Rafah. As I said yesterday, our military operation in Rafah, the major military operation in Rafah, should not proceed without a credible plan for ensuring the safety and support of more than 1 million people sheltering there. Many people there have been displaced multiple times, fleeing the violence to the north, and now they're packed into Rafah, exposed and vulnerable. They need to be protected, and we've also been clear from the start. We oppose any forced
That is President
displacement.
Biden live at the White House. He has the president of Jordan standing next to him as he delivers these live remarks. And we'll continue to keep an eye on it. And if there's any more details, we will let you know immediately. But according to what the president just said, he said that they are working on negotiating on a hostage release as well as a ceasefire, which he said would be at least a 6-week ceasefire if the details of this agreement are agreed to by all parties. He also sort of indicated there that while Israel has been part of the conversation, they didn't tell me if you interpreted that a different way, but it seemed like he was saying that Israel was maybe not quite on board with all of these details as
Yes, that is what
the King of Jordan and United States.
I think that's correct.
That they're not convinced that whatever the inner workings of this agreement would be, that Israel's not quite on board with the whole deal.
And I wonder what the inner workings of that deal could be, because you also see, Egypt and a lot of these other countries that are by Israel, they have been very standoffish, if you will, to even take in people, hostages, people from Gaza. They have been very standoffish in, I think, military aid, stepping in. It's a very testy kind of, it always is, but this particular situation, you don't really see the other countries, I think, coming in to help with this war.
Yeah. The only details that have been released at this point about these negotiations is, again, that it would create a two-state solution.
Yeah, and I don't see that.
Right, which maybe is part of the resistance from Israel.
I think yeah.
It would create a two-state solution, and it would secure the release of at least some number of hostages, and would guarantee 6 weeks of a ceasefire, and with the goal of that being more permanent. Those are pretty much the only details that are out at this moment, but I'm sure that there's a lot more to come. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it and let you know as we get it all in. This is breaking news as we are talking. One of the advantages of being live and local for so long as we are each and every day. So as things, as more information is disseminated throughout the afternoon, Tim and Chris, Rob Carter, Larry, they will be able to deliver that information to you. And of course, we'll be back to talk about it tomorrow. Dipping back into the Super Bowl for a moment. Super Bowl commercials. Did you like them?
Loved them. Loved every minute of the Super Bowl commercials. I told you today, I'm not jazzed about anything that has to do with sports, but all all in all, the Super Bowl I thought was an incredible game. I told you I loved all of the commercials. From the serious ones all the way to the goofy ones.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the halftime show. Like, I came in and I'm like, oh, that was so much fun to watch. I had a blast. That was my POV.
The second half of the Usher halftime show I loved. The first half was a little bit of a slow, boring start, and I was looking forward to it. Like Christine and I both were, and we were like, "Come on, to get going." And once Little John appeared, and
he saved the day.
Yeah, and said, "Turn down for what?" It was game on. From that moment on, it was pretty great. I
thought.
Was
so good.
But the commercials.
But why? Why are you being such a grumperton about the commercials?
What's so funny is that Katie and I were talking about this before the show, and the commercial that I used as my example of the worst was the Dunkin' Donut commercial, and that was your favorite.
I loved every minute of it. I thought it was so fun.
Does it make you want to go to Dunkin' Donuts more often? Does it make you want to buy Dunkin' Donuts products more than it did before?
You know,
You're like, oh man, I wouldn't normally have gone to Dunkin' in the morning, but I will now that I saw
not that.
Ben Affleck. Well,
it's not that.
That's what it's supposed to be.
It is what that's supposed to be, but there's remembrance in it, and it's not necessarily
nostalgia.
I'll pass by a Dunkin' now, and I'll laugh because I'll think of that Super Bowl commercial, which is part of the marketing. Maybe I'm not going to go into Dunkin' because I'm not really a
They need to make money off of that commercial.
They do. But I'm not maybe going to go in and buy the expensive coffee. That's just not how I roll. But I'll look at the Dunkin', and if I did have a hankering and there was a Dunkin' and a Starbucks, I'd probably be more apt to do the Dunkin' because I'd think like, oh, they're funny. They put out a funny thing.
I will fully admit that I am a pessimistic, stick in the mud,
no, not our Tony. No,
old man.
Not
so. All of that said. I can see, when I watch those commercials, I can see the boardroom of some multi-million-dollar marketing company sitting there with the heads of these huge corporations going, you know, who are the most relevant super celebrities out there? And let's pay them whatever we need to pay them to come on and be silly and do something dumb on our commercial during the Super Bowl, and then Americans will love us. And I just don't, it makes no sense to me to pay Tom Brady $15 million to wear a Dunkin' jacket and pretend he's a DJ to make anybody go, well, that's it. I'm going to Dunkin' 5 days a week from now on, because that was great. It just makes me just cringe.
I think that is part of it, but like the other part to the commercialism that is now 2024 is that hype. Like they are trying to sell the product.
The hype's got to come along with a financial payoff, though.
It's true.
And I'm not. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. Maybe this works. Maybe people see that and they go, like, did the Bud Light commercials, do you think, change anybody's mind about?
I don't know.
Bud Light?
I don't know.
Because they're trying.
But the glitz and the glam and the bombastic nature is also part of it. I know. I understand the financial part taking the precedence, but to put Ben Affleck, who has been the Dunkin' guy now for a long time, and have J-Lo a part of it, and then Matt Damon, I'm like, Tony, come on. The Dunk King, come on. Matt Damon hating his life to be forced to do it. It was so good. And then the one with Jason Momoa, too, which was the T-Mobile, and it's the two guys from Scrubs.
I hated that one, too. I hated that one, too.
It was so funny. I love the guy from Scrubs.
How about the line at the end when the lady was like, do it again, but this time take your shirt off?
Yeah. And then she looked at the other two guys and was like, you can keep them on.
What if that was a girl?
It would never be a
girl.
girl.
What if a guy said, hey, do that again, lady, but take your shirt off?
Yeah, I guess so.
I told you I'm a humorless old man. I get it. I'm a grump.
You didn't like one commercial? Not one?
Well, I didn't see them. I didn't see very many. But no, that doesn't, none of that does anything for me. I think it's just.
Tony.
I think it's.
It's supposed to be cheesy. It's supposed to be corny.
It's also supposed to be profitable.
Well,
$7
we'll
million
have to
just for the commercial. How much do you
Yeah.
think Jason Momoa got paid? How much do you think Ben Affleck got paid?
And
Matt
if it
Damon?
was more than 30 seconds,
Ooh.
too, if it was like a minute.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go crawl back in my cave.
And listen to Lil Jon.
Colombo and Katie back tomorrow, too. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast in the meantime and keep it right here for the O'Reilly Report next. The Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show at 4, Larry at 6, and Rob Carter at 8. Thanks for listening to News Talk STL.
Hello, America. It's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you don't have Consumer Cellular yet, now is the perfect time to switch and save. For a limited time, new customers can get wireless service for as low as $15 a month for your first year. Yep, the same exact nationwide coverage as the leading carriers for $15 a month for an entire year. What are you waiting for? Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com and use code RADIO15.
See consumercellular.com/firstyear15 for promotional details.